Canucks get crushed on home ice by the Kraken. The playoff dream is officially dead. Let the postmortem begin here on Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on the night the dream of playoff hockey for a second straight season in Vancouver came to a crushing halt. The Vancouver Canucks get smoked 5-0 by the Seattle Kraken. This is where you get to say your line.
It's over. O-V-A-H. Good night. Night, like Steph Curry would say.
Lights out for the Vancouver Canucks. There have been some disappointments on home ice. This is right up there at the top of the list, but you know the drill by now. If you're a Rink-Wide regular, we work with the material that they provide us. And so we got to break down what we saw in front of us, and it was ugly. It looked like a team that recognized that the playoffs weren't going to happen this year, but no excuse for mailing it in. I know they're short-staffed, and they've got some young guys that have done a nice job stepping into the breach here, but they had nothing going. Joey Decord with a 25-save shutout, so credit to him. We'll mention him a little later in 3 stars, but we will focus on what the Canucks did or didn't do. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365, and if you want to weigh in, we'd love to hear from you. I know it's not the best of circumstances for hockey fans that wanted to believe, but it's hard to get to the playoffs when you roll over on home ice the way that this team has done so many times this season, and I think that might be the focus of this program, is just looking back at so many missed opportunities. It's wild that they get down to the final 2 weeks of the regular season, still mathematically alive when you think of how much they have stunk in front of the paying customers, the people that have bucked up big time to see the Vancouver Canucks and just haven't been rewarded for their efforts. So we want to hear from you, your thoughts on this one, the thoughts on the season as a whole. Anything goes here on Rink Wide. And, of course, you can hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Where do we start on a night like tonight?
We talked a lot, and I think the players have said all the right things about, getting up for games, and these are meaningful games. And you and I sat here and, we looked at the schedule a week ago and said, they got to beat Dallas. They're going to have big games against Dallas, a couple against Vegas, a game against, the Colorado Avalanche, the Minnesota Wild. The Vancouver Canucks couldn't beat the Seattle Kraken, who were short-staffed as well, on a Wednesday night at home in one of those must-win games. That says enough about where this team is at and what this season's been.
Irf has just summed it up. And that's going to do it for Rink Wide tonight. But you're so spot on, this idea, this false notion of if everything went their way and they squeeze into the playoffs and they face the Winnipeg Jets, who just beat them 3-1 the other day, by the way. You're right. You can't get past the Seattle Kraken, who have 2 20-goal scorers on the roster, and neither one of them was in action tonight, Jaden Schwartz and Eli Tolvanen, and they come in and essentially just take it to the Canucks, kept punching them in the face, and there was really nothing the Vancouver Canucks could do. One of these paths to the playoffs that we kind of propped up was the return of Thatcher Demko, and he could go lights out and put this team on his back.
It wasn't very good.
He was not very good. And, it's a team game, so it's never just one guy, but this idea that Demko could be the difference maker, he's been back now, and, 2 wins, 2 losses. 500 hockey. Not going to do it through the course of the regular season. Certainly not going to get it done down the stretch as well. And so these are the numbers. 5-0 was the final score. The Canucks are 34-28-13. They remain on 81 points. That home ice record that I referred to, 15-14-7 through 36 home games. So there's still 5 to come, and that's going to be a tough sell to get people to either buy tickets, or even if they've got tickets, are they going to use them? So we'll monitor attendance as the Canucks limp to the finish line here. But they are 7. They've got 7 games remaining. They are 8 points back of both St. Louis and Minnesota. Minnesota got a game to overtime against the Rangers, lost. 5-4 at Madison Square, but the single point gets them back into a tie with the St. Louis Blues and 8 in front of the Vancouver Canucks. So it's not happening with 7 games to go, and hopefully there aren't many games remaining that look and feel like this one, because you got to play them.
Well,
you can't mail them in, and I'm going to be really curious to hear. As you said, players have said the right things to this point. Rick Tocchet has tried to remain patient and pump up his group, but we know he apologized to the fans after that dreadful loss to the Islanders back in November. I wonder if he's singing from that hymn book here when he gets to the podium. So we'll try to bring you the coach, but certainly if not, we'll pick up some of his quotes as we move our way through this one. A game that was scoreless for the bulk of the first period, and the Canucks had 2 early power plays, and I don't want to get into it might have been different, but they did absolutely nothing with them, and maybe that was the truest indication of what was to come, just an absolute pop gun offense with a couple of early power plays that he did nothing with.
No perimeter, and that's all it was. The passes are nice. The puck movement looks great, but the name of the game is put the pucks to the net, and nobody did it, right? Jonathan Lecker-Mackey had chances, had some shooty lanes, and he's just not doing it. Now, maybe that's a sign of a young player getting into his own and not feeling confident yet, but he's there to shoot the puck. Like that is his job. And I know everyone wants to get the puck to Quinn Hughes and, let Quinn Hughes do Quinn Hughes things, but Quinn Hughes is starting to drain a little bit, right? He's going to start to get a little more tired here with all the minutes that he's playing. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Listless power play. Like they did nothing with it.
And it's only missing Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
And for much of the season, he was a decoy and he wasn't very much involved. And I do think that the workload and the drain on Quinn Hughes just hasn't allowed him to be nearly as dynamic as he has been for much of the season. This is really 4 straight games where Quinn hasn't been any kind of difference maker for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is not a knock on him. He played 10 minutes and 8 seconds of the first period. Now, 3.5 of that was the early power play, so that played into it. But the Canucks only had 1 power play the rest of the hockey game. Quinn Hughes played 27 minutes and 45 seconds. Like, what are we doing here? They're eliminated. They're done. Like, their next loss is going to mathematically eliminate them from playoff contention. They got to cap this guy at 25 minutes. He doesn't need to be playing 27-45 when you're down 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, and then, the goalie comes out. Rick Tocchet was criticized for not pulling the goalie the other day in Winnipeg. I don't know if this was a response to that, but you help me out here. Like, what do you make of him pulling the goalie? Down 4-0 with 4:57 remaining in this hockey game.
You looked at some coaches that have done things that send messages to teams, and John Tortorella has done things like that. What we've obviously watched and seen, especially here.
Patrick Waugh.
I was just about to say Patrick Waugh has definitely done that. I think this was some of that a little bit. I think.
But who's the message to? The players, or is it management that he just doesn't have the horses? Or?
It's got to be to the players. I mean, with the effort that team went out and put, you can never knock some of those guys and what they're going to go out and do. Like Kiefer Sherwood's a wrecking ball. You got your maximum effort out of him. Thought Connor Garland was okay after he drew the penalty. But again, quiet night for guys like Brock Besser. I know you had a couple shots, but Jake DeBrusk, where were you? The real Jake DeBrusk, with a 20-goal scorer, Jake DeBrusk, please show up when you need him the most.
He had a nice deflection on one of the early power plays that was a legitimate scoring chance for the Canucks on the night when they didn't score. But you're right, it's 1 goal in 10 games for Jake DeBrusk at crunch time when this team was trying desperately, minus a bunch of frontline guys to keep its slim playoff hopes alive. And so, that's disappointing because Jake DeBrusk, for the most part, has done what he was paid to do and brought in to do, but he's gone quiet. Aside from a power play goal the other night in Columbus, that's it offensively for him at the wrong time of the year. So you're right. I mean, you look at who are the candidates to score and in what game state. Well, on the power play, you've got Quinn, you got Brock, you got DeBrusk. Pius Suter's had a nice run here. You can't expect Pius Suter to do it every single night. And then Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, and look, I'm not expecting the world from Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, but I want to see him look dangerous. And quite frankly, since the stick twirl, I don't know, is it bad juju? Because he really hasn't been terribly noticeable either at 5-on-5 or in power play situations. And when you look at Lecker-Mackey's night here, and this is what we've got now. Like, it is some of these younger guys that we're focused on. who have tried hard and given the Canucks a reasonable return. But with 7 games remaining, this is go time for these guys to really make some sort of statement for next year. And you would have loved somebody to rise above here. And, Lekkerimäki's night, 13 minutes and 48 seconds. So a little bit more ice time there. 3.5 of that on the power play. But just 1 shot on goal. I want to see him be a little more selfish when the puck is there.
Especially on the power play.
Fire it. Let it go. Let's see what can happen and test some goaltenders here. So, again, they didn't lose because Jonathan Lekkerimäki didn't get enough shots in this hockey game, but time is ticking towards the end, and I just, I'd like to see him go into the offseason feeling a little bit better about his game and now having this solid baseline of life in the National Hockey League and what he has to do to get better and more prominent more regularly. But he will go back down to Abbotsford, and we'll talk more about Abby. Maybe we should start doing rink wides after the Abbotsford games instead of the big league team. But, a quiet night across the board. Nobody scored, so I'm not picking on Jonathan Lekkerimäki, but want to see a little bit more from him. Ratu, I didn't think he only played 11 minutes and 16 seconds, was one of the low ice time guys, and didn't have a whole lot of juice, I didn't think, here. So, maybe it all caught up to them, right? Like, they scored more on the road trip than we anticipated, given who is available to Rick Tocchet. I don't know. I mean, maybe this night was going to come, and look, it's back-to-back regulation losses, and then you tack on the disappointing result out of Columbus on Friday night, and all of a sudden it's a 3-game losing streak at 0-2-1. And so, again, this notion of, run on the table and stringing together all these wins, well, forget that. They have 1 of a possible 6 points in their last 3 hockey games. So, yeah, just a disappointing night all around for Vancouver Canucks and Vancouver Canuck fans. Certainly Colin on Twitter says, somebody offered me free tickets. I declined. Don't want to go to a funeral. All right, need the little sound effect to go. The Beer Baron makes a point here, though. He says Seattle didn't score any lucky garbage goals either. Every goal just completely outskilled us. And you want your goaltender to be the last line of defense, and it turned out to be an off night for Thatcher Demko as well.
Well, and the thing about the Seattle, they know they're not making the playoffs. The Canucks have said all the right things, like I said before, and they probably know as well. So these games are going out, and you play for pride. You play for each other. You play for the sweater. You play for the guy next to you. And we saw one team do that. We did not see the other team do that. And for the Seattle Kraken, good for them. Jeremy McCann had a great game.
Yep.
Again, without their top 2 goal scorers in the lineup, they were able to come out and have this performance. You mentioned Thatcher Demko. Didn't like him on the first goal. Thought caught off the guard there a little bit, obviously, with Jake DeBrusk. But then the other 2, I mean, we're going to get into it here, but the other 2, I don't understand what kind of was happened there.
Yeah, and we're just looking at the replay on our live stream of the opening goal by Mikey Esamont. Just a dreadful turnover. It can't happen, but it did. And Rick Tocchet's talked about this a lot of the season, though, is compounding mistakes. I didn't love Phil Hronek's read and reaction and defending once DeBrusk turns the puck over, but make no mistake, that's on Jake DeBrusk in the neutral zone in full control of the puck. It looks like the Canucks are going to the attack, and he just throws it blindly into space, and then Esamont takes over. And as you said, I don't know if Demko was expecting him to deke, but it did look like he caught the goalie by surprise, went 5-hole, and opened the scoring at 16:42 of the first period. So not a whole lot happening in that opening period, but that was the first goal. It turns out to be the game winner. Thomas says that was an April Fool's joke. Day late, $1 short, but no laughing matter, unfortunately, for the Vancouver Canucks. Breen Lou says DeBrusk had a crap game. The number of times he turned the puck over was unacceptable. And it was. And there's nowhere to hide. You make that kind of mistake. This is the NHL. You're going to get called on it. And so Jake DeBrusk has had some moments, has scored some big goals for the Vancouver Canucks. But as we said, he's just gone quiet at the wrong time. And that's unfortunate. So let's see how he finishes up with 7 games remaining. And how does he bounce back? And how do they bounce back? They don't play now until an afternoon game against Anaheim. 1 o'clock on Saturday. Let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. 3 stars for a presentation of Gretabar YVR. And as you can imagine, a clean sweep of the stars for the Seattle Kraken, both in the building and here on Rink Wide. At Rogers Arena is picked by the telecast, Jared McCann, Joey Decord, and Andre Burakovsky. Here we're going McCann, Decord, Burakovsky. So one of those nights where we agree with the TV guys. That hasn't happened an awful lot.
No.
I mean, like, I think it was pretty simple. Jared McCann was dealing. I mean, how many times off the rush? The Stevenson goal was off the rush. I guess Esamont, do you call that one off the rush as well? Shane Wright with a snapshot, right shot guy coming down the left wing. And then the Burakovsky goal is off the rush. So really the first 4 goals, and look, it's been an issue. We've seen this since the Four Nations. There have been a few times. The Anaheim game in Anaheim where the Ducks killed the Canucks off the rush, and even Seattle at the tail end of that road trip. Kraken were able to generate off the rush. So been a bit of an issue for the Vancouver Canucks, who overhauled their defense core, and the defense is completely healthy, save for Noah Juleson, but these are their guys, and they're giving up those sorts of opportunities and ultimately goals. Jared McCann, 3 assists, 5 block shots as well. So
he ate that one from Tyler Myers early.
He was in some real trouble. So good on him for shaking that off. And he's got a bunch of former teams. I don't know if beating the Canucks at this stage of his career means an awful lot, but it's his first team.
Yeah, I think that's the big part.
Trying to build this rivalry, then yeah, you want some villains on the other side. But nice night for Jared McCann picking up the slack for the other guys who were missing. Joey Decord wasn't tested a ton. Drew O'Connor shorthanded. Nifty setup by Connor Garland, and it was still scoreless then. Teddy Bluger in the penalty box for goaltender interference, and Garland carries the puck in deep, threads the needle on the backhand, and O'Connor got a lot of wood on it. I mean, he scored against Connor Hellebuck from about the same spot on the ice a couple of weeks ago. But give Decord credit. Read the play well, got across and made the save. So probably his toughest save of the night. Joey Decord, 25 saves for the shutout. And there's Andre Burakovsky with a goal and an assist. The 4-0 goal midway through the third. It was gravy at that point, but pretty goal nonetheless. And a little surprised when I saw Burakovsky's only got 9 goals on the season. And I thought, okay, did he miss a bunch of time? No, he's played 72 games. So, you wonder about why are the Kraken where they are. They've had some underachievers, and I would say that Andre Burakovsky, one of them, but not tonight, figures in the 3 stars. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, McCann, Decord, Burakovsky. They are the 3 stars here on Rink Wide Vancouver. They're brought to you by Greta Bar, where we're going to be hosting a Canucks Army viewing party on April the 10th. Now, stay with me here. It could be the last chance to gather collectively, Canuck fans. We want to have some fun with it, so if you're looking for a night out and maybe you haven't experienced Greta, this would be a great opportunity. Vancouver at Colorado, April the 10th. Come down and join us. All the big screens, not a bad seat in the house, the arcade games. You order up that terrific new street food menu. They've got weekly drink specials. You don't even have to watch the game, quite frankly. You can just have fun and socialize with the rest of us. The games will be on. But we are having a watch party at Greta on April the 10th. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin.
We got a super chat from, the name is JT Miller, so it's quite interesting. Actually, I'm going to read that. Flabbergasted at the major lack of skill and speed up front. Summer sell-off of all hindering assets like Besser. Forward group needing a complete revamp. I'll start with Besser. They don't need to sell him because they could have sold him at the deadline and they didn't. Mm-hmm. He's going to walk for free unless they re-sign him. Don't think that's going to happen there. As far as everything else goes, look, I think we're going to have plenty of time to dissect this season on its totality over the next little bit, so we can kind of pick and choose where we're going to go. But I think just for the basis of this super chat, skill and speed up front. I think right now, and especially in a game like this, Jeff, we talk about guys stepping up, and in all reality, Elias Pettersson, Filipino's been out for a while, so you're missing Pettersson and Höglander. Like, those can't just be the 2 guys that you're missing that are pushing this group, for the forward group, even further. It's got to be the other guys, and namely, I know we said it and he had a shit night, and that's Jake DeBrusk, but he's a guy that, he got paid the money, he got the big contract, he's got to take his team into the fight. Because you know what you're going to get from Brock Besser. Not a great skater, obviously can put the puck in the net like the best of them, but it's got to be a guy like Jake. That's a guy that I'm looking at. Connor Garland's done enough this season. Guys like Dakota Joshua, you know what you're going to get out of them, but in a night like this and games like this, you want to see it from Jake DeBrusk.
It's funny, just looking at the box score, Brock Besser had 4 shots on goal. Connor Garland had none, and yet of those 2, I felt like Garland's motor was going, drew the early penalty. Brock, I'd have to look. His shots may have come on the power play, but that top line, and look, nobody scored, so it's not like one line outperformed any of the others. There just wasn't a whole lot happening there with Suter, DeBrusk, and and Brock Besser in this game. Actually, we talked a little bit about Lecker-Mackey earlier. I noticed his line mates. There was a strong shift. It was still 1-0 hockey game. Amon and Carlson.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, like, you don't notice Nils Åman an awful lot. Again, Linus Karlsson's shown some signs of life here, and they've given him the one-way contract for next year. I think he's going to be in the mix. That may not excite a ton of people, but I do feel like this guy is giving it an honest effort every night out, wins his fair share of battles, scored a second NHL goal out on the road. When we talk about guys that are sort of pushing to the finish line here, be interesting to see how many more opportunities he gets. If Niels Höglander comes back, somebody's going to have to come out of the lineup. It's probably going to be one of those guys like Amon or Carlson, and we'll see. Höglander skated again today, second straight day in the non-contact jersey at the morning skate, but obviously didn't play, but a few more days off here, maybe by the weekend. We'll see. But otherwise, it's all hands on deck. I mean, this is who they are right here, right now. And as we said, 5 regulars from Abbotsford in the NHL lineup. Maybe a night like tonight was bound to happen. It doesn't lessen the disappointment, though. This was a home game against a lesser opponent for a supposedly desperate Vancouver Canuck team, and they flat out no-showed. And just to go back to this home ice record, and again, the home ice record is 15-14-7. So 15 wins in 36 games. There have been some good wins. Don't get me wrong. The Winnipeg game, that probably is going to turn out to be one of the highlights of the season. But they beat the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers 4-0. They shut out Colorado, beat Edmonton. They beat Washington. Like, they have beaten some good teams at home. But Irf, as I looked through their schedule, start to finish, like, people will point to the overtime record, and overtime record and all the points they've left on the board, for sure. Injuries, the infighting, like, there are a ton of reasons. But try this on for size when you think about where the Vancouver Canucks are in relation to the playoff part. 2 losses at home to the Seattle Kraken. 2 losses at home to the Nashville Predators.
Yep.
Shut out by both the Kraken and the Preds on home ice. Single losses at home. Boston, Buffalo, Philadelphia, the New York Islanders, Detroit, Utah, the Rangers, Calgary. What do all those teams have in common? They're all below the playoff bar.
Yeah.
None of those teams is a playoff team right now, and they all came to town and beat the Vancouver Canucks. Why are the Canucks below the playoff bar? Because they didn't take care of business against bad teams on home ice.
Well, that's the biggest thing, and there's got to be some explanation for it here. I mean, at some point, something's got to give. They're 15 home ice wins now?
Yeah.
And the only teams with fewer or 15 or fewer are the Vancouver Canucks, the San Jose Sharks.
I'm not liking this.
And the third one is the
Chicago Blackhawks.
There you go.
That is not the company you want to be keeping.
Nope.
But that's just the reality of the situation. And so anytime you're lumped in with the Sharks and the Blackhawks, no bueno. But both of those teams have reasons. And they've got young players and a lot more on the way, and prospect system and all that kind of stuff. And here are the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, this is a team that had high hopes of picking up where it left off and improving from last year. And again, we know the reasons sort of why they are where they are, but that, quite frankly, is shocking that that's the company that they are keeping, the Blackhawks and the Sharks.
I ask you this, but I also say it in the utmost respect for a guy like Pius Suter. You think he's feeling the heat of having to be the top guy right now? Like, you get your maximum effort, you know what you're going to get. In some of those games, he's a lot louder than he has been. But in some games, you really don't notice him too much. He's okay in the face-off circle, and you feeling the heat of being that top center? Or the weight of it, at least?
I think what you're looking at there is that eventually playing higher in the lineup catches up to a guy. Mm-hmm. And it's foolish to think that he's going to be able to perform as a 1C every single night.
Yep.
And so, again, I don't want to come down too hard on Pius Suter.
No,
because,
absolutely not.
The road trip, he led the team in scoring on the road trip, scored some big goals, has had a career year, all of that. But if Pius Suter is your number one center, even if you're playing the Seattle Kraken on a Wednesday night, late in the season, there's no guarantee that he's going to be the best player on the ice. And most teams, they want to believe that their top center is going to have an impact on the hockey game. And as we talked about, Jared McCann, first star, 3 assists. And, again, this isn't on Pius Suter, but yeah. And
the whole team wasn't ready to play.
And so, we heard from Rick Tocchet after practice yesterday about Elias Pettersson and called him day-to-day and then said, hey, if a guy's day-to-day, I expect him to play.
Well, it's been 2 days.
Yeah, that sounded like a little bit of an indictment of the player. And who knows? And nobody really seems to know. Has skated a couple of times. Hedl, it doesn't sound like we're going to see him again. And that's probably the prudent play now that these games moving forward mean absolutely nothing. So Höglander of the 3 is the one guy that's likely to get back in there. And Rick Tocchet said that he wants to go. And maybe by the time the weekend rolls around, I don't know if it's both games or maybe he's good for one of the games. But I think we'll see Nils Höglander again this season. But I'm not banking on seeing either Filip Hedl or Elias Pettersson the forward with 7 games remaining.
Well, and didn't Rick Tocchet say that, Höglander or Hoagie's chomping at the bit to get back?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be there. He really does. And I think he's the little engine that, definitely makes his team better. Filip Hedl, obviously, for reasons that we know, concussions, some days are good days, some days aren't good days. I think Filip Hedl needs to seriously consider looking at the long-term outlook of, kind of life after hockey. He has had 5 concussions and he's 20-something years old, like in his mid-20s. It's just the reality of it, And for Elias Pettersson, again, like you said, skated a couple times, don't really know kind of what's there. If they get mathematically eliminated before he comes back in the lineup, I'm not entirely sure that, he comes back. Maybe, it's a type of thing where you just shut him down and say, that's it. But the one guy, once they get mathematically eliminated, they should shut down is Quinn Hughes. That's the guy that he's not going to want to come out of the lineup. I guarantee you that. And he's the captain of this team. He's got so much pride in what he does and his craft every single night, the way that he works and prepares for games. But you got to honestly think about it.
And I think I said earlier that their next loss will mathematically eliminate them. It probably won't. I mean, this is just life in the NHL, that it takes a lot for you to be completely ruled out. But the math is simple now. The Canucks can max out at 95 points. Well, Minnesota and St. Louis are both at 89, and they've got the tiebreakers on the Vancouver Canucks. So really, the Canucks' tragic number is 3. Any combination of St. Louis and Minnesota wins, any combination of 3 wins by Minnesota and or St. Louis and Canuck losses, essentially. So if the Blues win 3, if the Wild win 3, or the Canucks lose 3, then that's it. So it could happen as soon as the weekend is basically the point I'm trying to make, even if my math wasn't as clear as it ought to have been. But speaking of numbers, let's get to the stat that stands out.
Do it.
Always like the stat that stands out. I don't know that people are going to love this one necessarily tonight. But the stat that stands out is brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. And yeah, this jumps off the page. And in fact, Seattle tacked on an empty netter. We didn't update here. The Canucks have given up 8 consecutive goals since Pius Suter opened the scoring in Winnipeg. It was 1-0 for the Canucks once upon a time, and then the Jets scored 3 and the Kraken scored 5. So caught our accounting off guard here. But if you're listening on the podcast, you don't have to worry about the graphic that we've got on the screen. But it is 8 consecutive goals since that. Look at that, Jacob on the job. Updating in real time.
There we go.
Yeah, we like that. 8 straight. We'll see if they can get one against the Ducks on Saturday afternoon. Stat that stands out, brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. All about tariffs these days and the push to support Canadian companies that are doing good things, and Resurrection Spirits certainly is doing that. You want to support a local company? Making a name in the spirit space, then check out Resurrection Spirits. East Van Company, crafting small batches of premium spirits using BC ingredients. You can check out their website for a look at the full product line, gin, vodka, rye, and more. And who doesn't love a deal? Resurrection Spirits has partnered with our friends at Secaris and Price to create the S&P Gin. Now, this is a limited run, so make sure you use the code S&P. You get $5 off a bottle. Got a few here in studio. You can see one over my shoulder. And again, you see the product line, resurrectionspirits.ca. You can find out more about that S&P gin, and you can see everything else that Resurrection has going for it. What do the Vancouver Canucks have going for them? Well, a couple of days now, I suppose, to lick their wounds and get back at it because they've got a busy weekend ahead. They've got Anaheim at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and then Vegas is here. First time this season. Vegas hasn't been here yet.
On the second of back-to-backs for them.
And then they'll be here again on the final night of the regular season. So you're going to see the Vegas Golden Knights twice over the final 10 days of the Canucks regular season. 2 more to go on this homestand, and then out on the road to Dallas and Colorado, and then they come on home to wrap things up with a 3-game homestand. But on Saturday, again, 1 o'clock, so that means an early start for us here at Rink Wide as well. And who knows what we'll be talking about after that one.
So the 8 consecutive goals that they've given up since they scored. My question to you, Jeff, who is the likeliest of heroes in your mind to score? First name that comes to mind for the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday.
Quinn Hughes, because he got the puck on his stick.
And that right there is the problem with the Vancouver Canucks. That answer right there. That's it.
Yeah. But it's not the wrong answer.
I know. That's true. It's not the wrong answer, but that's the right problem.
Your point is well taken. And again, I've said this many times throughout the season. Like, I do think in the summer, the Vancouver Canucks as an organization have to figure out how to harness the greatness of Quinn Hughes. That all the incredible things that he does, and you look at the point totals of the individuals, and we're back to this notion, especially with Elias Pettersson out of the lineup, like, are they going to have a 50-point forward? And it certainly gets shut out tonight. That doesn't add to the totals, but Brock Besser's on 46, so he's got 7 games. He can get there. I don't know if he will, but, this is absolutely something the Vancouver Canucks, look, was it an off-season for Brock? Yeah, to some degree, certainly after scoring 40 last year. But how does Quinn get as many points as he does? And, like, where are the other players sort of, feeding off all of the things that Quinn Hughes does for this hockey club? That's something they got to figure out. Because as much as Quinn means to the Canucks and all the good things that he does for the Vancouver Canucks, ultimately, it hasn't helped. And I'm not knocking Quinn Hughes here, but I'm saying, like, they got him back for that Calgary game. Remember, we all wondered, here's the captain. He's coming back and trying to help this group down the stretch. He's played 11 games since then, and they're 5-6, basically. Yep. So even with the captain back, playing as much as he's playing, it's not leading to victories. And that's, again, I think, comes back to your point about, like, to what end? Like, why is Quinn Hughes playing nearly 28 minutes now? They're cooked. They're done.
Absolutely cooked.
It's going to be a tough sell to him. Honestly, I'd take his passport away. Don't let him travel to Denver and Dallas next week. Let him play the home games. He'll go on the road trip. But I do hope they find a way to dial him back. And, we're at a point now, too, where as much as Derek Forbert's brought to the penalty kill, while they were pushing for the playoffs and every power play and penalty kill mattered, I get that. Derek Forbort doesn't need to play all of the remaining 7 games.
Nope.
Like, I want to get to a point where DPD and Victor Mancini are in the lineup together. Like, why not? Like, they don't have to play together. You can shelter them if you have to with veteran guys, but, Derek Forbort can sit down. Derek Forbort didn't play a lot in the early part of the season. He's on an expiring contract. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. If they do, fine. He's been a huge part of this penalty kill that has been good for the Vancouver Canucks, but he doesn't need to play the remaining 7 games. And I'm not saying none of them. Like, I'm not saying park him for the rest of the season, but find a way to get some of these young guys. If it is about seeing what these guys can do at the NHL level against quality opponents, play the young guys in Dallas and Colorado next week. Like, the season's over if you get blown out by those teams. Big deal. Like, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that they will get blown out, but it's more about experience now than it is about, saving face. You're going to miss the playoffs. So there's nowhere to hide as an organization. So I am kind of curious, and I get that Rick Tocchet's going to, try to coach to the end here. But I do think that organizationally they've got to step back and sort of come up with a game plan with 7 games remaining and no chance of qualifying for the playoffs.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. In the last game of the season, everyone probably plays. That's the fan appreciation night and all that, or at least whatever. But you're right. Got to get these guys some meaningful minutes here down the stretch. We do have Quinn Hughes, though, if you want to hear from the Canucks captain.
I saw a couple of quotes from Rick Tocchet. A little surprised, just the one that I saw. He said there's plays there, and I just think we're not finding them. This, to me, wasn't about plays and not finding plays. This was about not laying it all on the ice in the waning moments that you had still playoff hopes, and now those are done. So we'll see if we can get some of the coaches' comments here. But, let's hear from the captain. I'm kind of curious to hear. It's been a trying season, obviously, for Quinn Hughes. A year after winning the Norris and the injury since Christmas and giving it what he can. But he and his teammates just didn't have it in a 5-0 loss at home to the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, obviously not the result we wanted.
Not necessarily a ton of urgency in the first period. It seemed like by either team, it felt like a fairly low event game. Are you surprised given the stakes for you guys?
I think our effort's been there for the most part, and thought we had a pretty good road trip as far as tonight. Obviously, not what we wanted to see, but have to look at it tomorrow and get better.
3 straight losses, at a time where you can't afford any. How tough is it given the math? You know how long the odds are. Is it tough to believe?
It's not tough to believe just because we're in it, and it's the reality. So as far as that, obviously, everyone's looking at the standings daily and knows, what the percentages are or whatnot. And we know where we're at.
Do you think guys are mentally tired from the chase?
I don't know. I'm not going to comment on, guys being mentally tired or physically tired. I think that if you went around the league, everyone would say that they're mentally tired. If, especially the guys that played at Four Nations. So I don't know how many guys on our team we have, Lincoln and Petey, and that's really it. So I don't think there should be any excuses for that.
But is it tough when you're playing what feels like a dozen game sevens in a row where the stakes are that tense and intense for you guys?
Like I said, it's just reality. If you ask the St. Louis Blues if they're mentally tired from playing game sevens every other night trying to win, they've won 10 in a row, so they're not using that as an excuse. They're just playing good hockey.
Oh, all right.
That's the captain of this team, and I think that is exactly what you want to hear Quinn Hughes say.
I was still processing the stuff about the Four Nations.
So was I.
Basically calling out the rest of them like, you guys weren't at the Four Nations, so how come you haven't shown up here down the stretch? But he did say off the top that he thought the effort's been there, and I think we all think that effort was never the issue on the road trip. There were defensive miscues in Columbus. There was some goaltending, missed opportunities against the Rangers. And I think it is a fair question whether he wanted to answer it or not. Just the mental fatigue of playing catch-up when you put yourself behind the 8 ball, the way that this group has, coming to the rink every day, knowing that you've got zero margin. And then you're asked about it a bunch, and so whether you want to try to eliminate it from your mind, you're reminded of it. And again, it doesn't really matter what he says, but it is fascinating to sort of hear from an agitated Quinn Hughes, and understandably so. If he's not in the prime of his career, then he's right there knocking on the door, and you just hate to waste what was a brilliant season up until he got injured, and it's still going to be an incredible season for him. But even through all of that, it takes more than one superstar on a nightly basis, and just not enough of a supporting cast for the Vancouver Canucks at all this season.
Rink Tocchet. That's one that I'm also interested in hearing.
Now, apparently, this again is one where there are a few answers here that raise some eyebrows in the press conference room. So we haven't heard this, but we'll listen along with you, the listeners, and the viewers as well. Here's Rick Tocchet, a disappointed Rick Tocchet after his team gets spanked 5-0 on home ice by the Seattle Kraken.
Rick, given the stakes and the fact that you guys are kind of running out of lives here, how disappointing was what happened tonight?
Yeah, I think that early on, saw a lot of nervousness. We had a couple power plays where you need some poise there. I didn't think we had some poise. Then they got a couple of quick goals on us, and you could see guys were getting nervous, chasing the game. I mean, I think we had some guys that really gave some effort, but I didn't think we had a lot of poise tonight.
How tough is it to continue to believe? I mean, when you play in these must-win situations, it's got to be emotionally exhausting, and to still believe you've got a chance when the math is bad.
Well, I mean, you got to believe in yourself. How do you, if you're struggling as a player, you got to turn your game around. So you got to believe in yourself. Plus, we got a bunch of young guys. You owe it to them to keep pushing, and you just keep pushing. But like I said, you got to. I know it's the same old thing coaches say, but you got to keep getting at it, working at it. But there's some plays there and some poise stuff that we just got to relax in certain situations. The intensity, but relax. There's plays there, and I just think we're not finding them.
You mentioned
Personally.
the power plays early on in the game. Obviously, a goal there would have made a big difference.
Yeah.
What do you need from that power play right now?
Well, like I said, I mean, we were just looking at it. There's just plays there. There's a low play twice. There's a low play wide open, but we pass to the flanker and he shoots it, gets it blocked. I mean, there's just certain things you just gotta, but these are reps. You gotta stay with it, and hopefully it pans out. But I just saw a lot of nervous guys on that power play.
I saw no Tyler Myers for the last 12 minutes. Do you have any update on?
Yeah, he got banged up. There's, he wanted to keep going, but we shut him down at that point. So he'll be evaluated.
It's a little unusual with 5 minutes left, down by 4 goals. You pulled the goalie for the extra attacker there. What message are you sending there? What we've heard you in the past say, like, the players need to earn a goalie pull.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the players earned that goalie pull tonight?
Well, you just try to, you're looking for who's giving up, who's not, and I want to see, who knows? You might need it on what do we play on Saturday? A 6-on-5 goal. Like, you might as well do it. So why not? That's the way I look at it.
Quinn, whatever percent he's at, you get 8 shot attempts from 27 minutes. I mean, is there a statement there for your younger guys and what he's able to bring right now?
Who's that?
Quinn.
Yeah, no, it's like everybody. You're trying to. I don't know. We have 76 shot attempts, a lot of missed nets, blocked shots. The same old story. We just that's where the poise is. The guy's gonna be in front. You got to fake it, go around, and then shoot it. Like, these are the poised plays. 76 shot attempts are. I mean, I like it, but you'd like to see more result oriented when you get some attempts. I thought we missed the net again. Shot location's a big thing. We've talked about being able to shoot somewhere where the goalie might give a rebound instead of missing the net and then starting to break out. So this is but that's poise. We got to keep working on that stuff.
All right, there you go, Quinn or Rick Tocchet. I had to laugh at PJ's question about Quinn Hughes when he laid it out. 27 minutes, 100 shot attempts. Who? There's only one guy that fits the description there, but I guess he missed the descriptor right off the top. But wow, what an answer about pulling the goaltender to see who is still with him at that point of the hockey game and basically who's packed it in. And at 4-0, whether you lose 4-0 or 5-0, not a big deal.
It's a test. It's a message.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great answer, and he has been honest to a fault all season long. Not as frustrated as maybe I thought, like, not as exasperated. We certainly have seen him more visibly frustrated at the podium after other losses, and we laid out the long list of bad losses for the Vancouver Canucks at home this year. No apology to the fans in this one, just talked about poise and needed, what did he say, urgency and patience at the same time.
Rick's not stupid. Like, he knows exactly where they are, right? And I think he knows exactly what this team is. And he did an interview a couple weeks ago, was asked about his contract. I think it was on radio here in Vancouver, where he said, I'm not trying to talk about that. I don't want to talk about my contract. I'm just trying to get into the playoffs. He was asked about his contract again the other day and said, we're just trying to beat Seattle.
Yep.
Like, he knows where his team is in the standings. He knows where they stand. And I think now for him, it's becoming an evaluation process. And he says that basically in that last answer, who's still here? At this point in the game, where we are in the season, where we are in this game, who's still here? Who's isn't gone? Who's not in the locker room? Who's not already booking flights to wherever they're leaving after this season? Like, who is still here with this group? And I think that was a really telling answer.
This segment of Rink Wide brought to you by the Pacific Toyota dealers, and they want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric, backed by peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. 100% electric, by the way, not a phrase that was used to describe the home team at Rogers Arena on this night. It's the spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station, knowing that you don't have to stop, and the added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when driving an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. It's packed with the things you want in an SUV, cargo capacity. You can put all the kids, the dog, sporting gear, camping, whatever. You name it, it can handle any terrain. It can take you from the city to the slopes. And when you choose a BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. And now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 3.29 APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right, a little housekeeping here before we move on to a couple other topics. This was the fourth shutout loss of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. Unfortunately, 3 of them on home ice. Devils schooled them back in October, 6-0. Nashville, right after the new year, a 3-0 loss. They lost 2-0 in Carolina, and then this one 5-0 to the Seattle Kraken. Did you notice? I can't remember this ever happening. A couple of weeks ago, there was a big deal about Brock Besser not wearing an A. This is not that. But did you notice that Brock Besser didn't have an A in the first period and did for the rest of the game? My sense is that they've been away for 6 games, haven't worn the home unis. And the last time they were at home, Elias Pettersson was in the lineup. He probably had an A on his jersey. I don't know if it was just an oversight. Again, I'm not trying to make anything other than I've never seen a guy come out for the second period with a letter that didn't have one in the first. But the
last time we talked about you talking about
I understand
this,
that.
I'm not talking. I'm done.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Just a sewing error somewhere along the line, apparently. I want to move this discussion to a happier topic here, and that is the Abbotsford Canucks, who are off the charts good. I joked on social last week that they're the St. Louis Blues of the American Hockey League, and it really isn't a joke. 11 straight wins. They beat San Diego 6-3 tonight. They sweep their California road trip. They've clinched an American Hockey League playoff spot with this win tonight. So 6-3, Abby over San Diego. Hats off to Ryan Johnson, Matty Milholstra, and certainly the players. And again, such a big part of that story is the guys that are up in the NHL, and it's just not stopping this Abbotsford juggernaut. So I do hope, I think they've got 4 games remaining in the regular season. I hope the people out in Abby and the Fraser Valley support the Final 4 for the regular season, but there's going to be playoff hockey out at the Abbotsford Center as well. We may have to turn our attention to Abbotsford Canucks and Rink Wide. I don't think we're going to be doing that, but I might work my way out to Abby to take in some playoff hockey. Whatever the case, like, they have found the good stuff out there, and full credit to them. And so while it is tough at the NHL level for the Canuck organization, there is a good thing going down on the farm right now.
Yeah, and they're going to get reinforcements. Like, they're going to get some good players back in their lineup, clinching a playoff spot for the 4th consecutive season. I mean, look, as much as people don't want to support the Vancouver Canucks, and this team right now, this Abbotsford group is special. They're a very tight-knit group, but like you mentioned, huge shout-out to Matty Malhotra in his first year as a head coach as well. And Ryan Johnson for being able to go and, put this team together and go and do some wild things. Like, was it 11 straight wins now?
Yeah, let's see if they can run the table. They got 4 to go. Push the thing to 15. Good on them. Nobody saw St. Louis doing this at the NHL level. I'm sure nobody really expected it, especially given the players that they're missing. The crazy part in that is you rattle off 11 straight wins at this late stage of the season and still not in the division lead. They are climbing Probably too much ground to make up ultimately to finish on top of the Pacific Division, but they are going to secure home ice for the opening round, and thanks mostly to this incredible streak that they've got going. And you're right, they're bound to get better just in terms of the depth chart with the guys that ultimately will get returned once the Vancouver Canucks season comes to a close. All right, a little bit of scoreboard watching maybe for the Canucks, although, again, it doesn't really matter. There are games tomorrow. St. Louis is at home to Pittsburgh. Calgary is taking on Anaheim, that game at the Saddle Dome, and the Utahs are home to Los Angeles. So those are the 3 games on the out-of-town scoreboard tomorrow. Minnesota continues its trip through New York. Minis at New York Islanders on Friday. So before the Canucks' next step on the ice, so all of those teams that sort of right there in and around them will all have played one more game. So the standings are going to change, and we'll see what happens there. But nothing the Canucks can do about it. They squandered their opportunity to hold serve at home against the Seattle Kraken. So that leads us to our Bet365 line of the night. Irf, where are you looking on the out-of-town scoreboard?
Well, holy smokes, Jeff. Breaking news coming in from Bet365. The Canucks got smoked on home ice. Did you see it? Where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, every face-off hat trick, power play goal, shot on goal, penalty shot, even suspenseful minute in between. Oh, it's amazing. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. Official partner of the NHL. Download the Best 365 app and use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. I like the Montreal Canadiens. I love what they're doing. Did you see the interview that Nick Suzuki did with their in-arena? That building was absolutely
I saw his heroics,
electric.
though.
It was unbelievable.
What a season.
Yeah, what a season for the Montreal Canadiens. I hope that they get in. The Bell Center is an absolutely rocking building when they're in the playoffs. Columbus Blue Jackets, I love taking them at home. I know they're playing the Colorado Avalanche, but I always they're my whale at home. The LA Kings are probably going to beat Utah because Utah stink too. And the Vegas Golden Knights at home against the Winnipeg Jets. Vegas is a very good hockey team. And I think this is a bigger test for the Jets than it is for the Vegas Golden Knights. You talk about measuring stick games and things like that, see where they stand against some of the top teams. So put those 4 together. You get some pretty good odds there, Jeff.
Just looking at games in the National Hockey League tonight. JT Miller, by the way, got his 700th NHL point. We should mention that. The Rangers with a 5-4 overtime win against Minnesota. Carolina, a 5-1 win at home. But the one is the one that matters because it was Ovi's goal. So 3 now from history. And the watch is certainly on. Wayne Gretzky, Gary Bettman. They're all going to be following Ovi now until he gets the record. Toronto defeated the Florida Panthers by a score of 3-2. And Colorado sort of toyed with Chicago. Did you see this? Ilya Mikheyev among the Blackhawk goal scorers. It was 2-0 Chicago midway through the third period. And then the Avs were like, I don't think so. Cale Makar gets his 29th goal of the season.
Silly.
And
30
then
as a defenseman.
Martin
easily.
Necas scores with 11 seconds left in regulation to force overtime, nothing doing in OT. And then Colorado lost in a shootout to Calgary the other night. McKinnon wasn't among the shooters. Necas wasn't among the shooters. But Nathan McKinnon was a shootout shooter tonight. He scored, and Arturi Lehkonen put the dagger in. He won it. So Colorado ends up beating Chicago by a score of 3-2. But it looked like the Avs punched the clock for about 10 minutes and were able to get the win.
Will everyone's favorite North Vancouver's son, Connor Bedard, ever get out of his career minus 82? At the end of his career,
Is that what he's at now?
will he be a positive on the plus-minus sign? I'm going to say no.
That whole,
It's
that's
insane.
First of all, it's probably not going to get, stop.
No, it's not going to stop, yeah.
Wow, where does it bottom out? That's another question.
Yep.
Triple digits?
Can easily go triple digits this season.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that he can claw his way out of that. All right, the Vancouver Canucks team day off on Thursday. I guess they'll practice Friday. Probably out at UBC because the lacrosse team is, and the lacrosse team's got some good things going. They're at home on Friday. And then you got the back-to-back games. Saturday at 1 o'clock against Anaheim, 7 o'clock start on Sunday. It's been hard to kind of keep track of the Sunday night start times. They've had 5 o'clock games, 6 o'clock games. This one is 7 p.m. with VGK, and I guess that's because Vegas is playing on Saturday.
Yes.
Are they in Calgary or Edmonton on Saturday?
I believe they are.
They're home to. They're in Calgary.
Yep.
So it's a late game on hockey night, and then got to give them the turnaround time to get here and be ready to go. And we'll be back with shows both on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll see where this journey takes the Vancouver Canucks as they limp to the finish line with 7 games remaining, stuck on 81 points. A reminder to continue to check out Canucks Army for all the latest news and notes on the Vancouver Canucks. David Quadrelli has his instant reaction up already after this loss to the Seattle Kraken. There will be all the usual post-game features and then news in the days and weeks ahead. So if you're not already checking out Canucks Army, you add it to your list. Again, we always tell you, too, all of our socials there. You can see them on the screen if you're watching on YouTube here. Make sure that you follow us there and subscribe to the YouTube channel because we've got some plans for off-season already. Yes, as we wind to a close here, not going to shut it down entirely, so you don't want to miss the new and fresh content that we push out once the games are done. So, yeah, hit that subscribe button, rate and review as well. We got a late super chat coming in.
I was just about to say.
Adam. I'm done. Bye, Canucks.
So am I. Mike's going off.
Yeah. No. We got 7 to go. I know you're not working all 7 of them, but we will be here with Rink Wide after each and every game, as we have been all season long. But Adam, thanks for your support to the BC Mental Health Foundation. I'm working on a total because we've had a lot of super chats throughout the season. Mm-hmm. It's been a great initiative, fundraiser for the BC Mental Health Foundation. So we're looking forward to making our donation, and we're trying to tally up how much over the course of 82 games. I guess it's been 75 to this point, but we'll try to come up with a number before the end of the season. I don't have any Canuck goal scorers to tell you about. It was all Kraken on this night. Essamont, Stevenson, Wright, Burakovsky, and Larson into an empty net. Joey DeCord with 25 saves for the shutout. The Seattle Kraken take 3 of 4 from the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks only win over the Kraken, the shootout win at Climate Pledge Arena. I don't know, what was it, 6 weeks ago now? After the end of the road trip out of the Four Nations break. So, disappointing night, frustrating night, and ultimately a night that pretty much puts the Canucks' playoff hopes to bed. So, yes, alas, we've reached that portion of the schedule. 75 down, 7 to go, and we will continue to document them each and every game right here on Rink Wide. Jacob working hard behind the scenes, updating the stats there mid-show. We love that, on top of the ball. Irf, people don't know. Well, maybe they do if they were following you on social. You saw 2 Seattle games today.
It was always the Mariners and the Kraken. I don't know why I took the Canucks. I really don't, but it's fine.
But you went down to the Mariners.
I did. Yeah, it was great. Quick trip down. Got to see the Mariners almost, or they won and stayed to the end, but had to make it back here to do this with you, Jeff.
I'm glad you did.
Yes.
No issues at the border.
No, none at all.
So a little baseball hockey doubleheader for Irf here on this Wednesday. All right, that is going to do it. Thanks so much for hanging in there. We appreciate your support. And please stick it out to the bitter end with us here on Rink Wide. But that is going to do it for Jacob and for Irf. I'm Jeff. You have been watching and listening to another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver.